So, what is going on, guys? This is Ryan here.
And this is the Ryan here.
And today we once again have another interesting video for you all. Now, this one is talking about the possibility of the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 establishment being the previous establishment, and also the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 establishment actually being the sister location.
Yeah, there's multiple points that we are going to be discussing in this video that may sound confusing at first, but once it's put into perspective, it isn't that confusing.
Yes, and we're going to start back with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 when we first actually heard the reference to an establishment we've never seen before.
So yeah, I believe it's the first night we come to in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 where the phone guy actually mentions a previous establishment. So we know that this Freddy Fazbear's Pizza we're in isn't the first one of its kind, because obviously it's the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Yeah, so that signifies the fact that there was possibly one just before, or at least the chain existed prior. Now, we have to think back to a couple of connections that actually suggest these various things which link the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 establishment to being this establishment we've never seen before, and it's worth actually starting back in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. So, the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 minigames seem to show a few similar traits with the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 establishment, and that, of course, is the overall layout.
So, on night 2 in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the phone dude mentions finding some vintage security tapes, training tapes,
yes.
he says, and he also mentions finding the Springtrap suit along with it, meaning that obviously they're both in the same place.
Yes, exactly, because the night before he mentions that it will get a lot more exciting this week and that they're trying to find relics and things like that. And something really interesting is actually some things that the phone guy says in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 also, which ties the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and 3 games together being in the same establishment. So, we can see that in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the minigame seems to take place in this establishment we're presuming the tapes to come from. I mean, we see Springtrap in this hidden back room. It all but makes sense, really. And then we have to think of what the phone guy says in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. He actually states when you first get into that office that he worked there before you and was finishing up his last week. What makes this a little bit more interesting, however, is the concept that all of the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 calls we receive are actually all pre-recorded, meaning these calls could actually date back to the same time era as the training tapes that were also found in that same location.
Yeah, and this definitely means that the phone guy was here in the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 establishment, and that the location in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is actually different to the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 establishment.
Yes, and this may seem a pretty confusing concept on the surface, but we're going to delve into this now, starting back, of course, with Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and more specifically on night 4. When we actually listen to the cassette tape back, the phone guy mentions a spring lock failure occurring at a sister location. Now, we have to think back to Five Nights at Freddy's 4 here, and in night 2, I believe we see these suits being operated and also one being suited up in the back. And then when it's night 4, ironically, we're locked in this back room and we see the suit that appears to be ripped apart quite drastically, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a clever way of Scott doing this, I guess, to link the games together, because obviously, like you just said, it's night 4 in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 that the phone guy mentions the spring lock failures, and it's in night 4 where we actually play as the child and we see this damaged looking suit in the back. So it's almost like Scott is linking the two together, almost like linear through the games, though, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
it's almost appearing that these two are kind of cross-referencing in almost the same time era, which is what's really making me and other Ryan think that this location with the Golden Freddy and the Spring Bonnie, and the Spring Fredbear characters, it must be a sister location that's referenced quite frequently, really, in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 phone calls.
Which also means that the Bite of 87 actually took place in a sister location as well.
Which is more interesting when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe that's why the sister was the sister location shut down? I believe it was, wasn't it?
I believe they were all shut down, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. It's just all these things seem to be linking together, and it's very interesting because that must also mean that the establishment may have actually been opened in 1983, which would explain why Fredbear's Family Diner has been out of business for several years in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 when we actually hear about it then.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
So that's very interesting to say the least, and it appears they're all linking nicely together, guys, and it seems like the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 establishment actually has more weight to it than just a random establishment with no true backstory.
Yeah, definitely.
And there we have it, guys. So hopefully you did enjoy this discussion, talking about if Five Nights at Freddy's 1 was the actual previous establishment spoken about, and if the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 location was actually opened simultaneously and is the sister location referenced. Hopefully you did enjoy the video, and be sure to comment down below any of your thoughts in relation to this topic.
And if you guys did enjoy this video, why not leave a like rating down below? And if you're new to my channel, why not subscribe for more interesting videos like this, and also some gameplay videos.
So thank you very much for watching the video, guys. We do hope you did enjoy, and we'll, of course, see you on the next one.
Goodbye, guys.
Want to see even more content from us?
Consider liking and subscribing to ensure you'll see all content in the foreseeable future.
And hey, why not check out our past 2 videos?